Hello YouTube. In this video, we are going to learn about cloud computing and what are all the types of cloud services that are available and why it is called as a cloud computing instead of something like virtual computing or remote computing, and is cloud suitable for you or not. And I will be also giving an introduction on serverless computing. Then we will be learning cloud computing with the help of Google Cloud Platform, and in the Google Cloud Platform we will be seeing what is cloud compute and what is cloud SQL, and we will be creating a small Python Flask application and we will be deploying the Python Flask application in the Google Cloud. Also, we will be making a connection to MySQL server that is created using Cloud SQL instance in the Google Cloud. And finally, we will be seeing how we can develop serverless applications using cloud functions. Before diving into cloud computing, let us try to understand the problem domain. Now that you have a great idea, you want to start a new software company. First, you need to rent an office space. You need to pay a huge amount as an advance and pay a lot of money for rent on a monthly basis. Next, whether you are purchasing or leasing the server and computer infrastructure, you need a huge money for this. Next, you need system administrators who can install and manage the infrastructure. You need to spend money for hiring and also for paying the salary. With cloud computing, you can avoid all this. You can just do development with a single core processor laptop which can run the browser application without any issues. Let's take an example of e-commerce site. So let's assume usually 100 customers visiting a day to the site. During a festive season or a special sale, there may be 10,000 customers visiting their site. They need to upgrade their hardware infrastructure to handle more customers. Otherwise, due to long waiting times and timeouts, the customers may choose to not visit the site anymore. Also, let's assume special sales happen 10 times a year. Just for 10 special days, they cannot spend huge money on upgrading the hardware infrastructure. With cloud, they can upgrade the infrastructure only for 10 days and keep downgraded for another 355 days. This way, they can avoid the huge expense. Let's try to understand what is cloud computing now. Cloud computing is the delivery of computer infrastructure over the internet. Infrastructures delivered can be a virtual machine with a server operating system or a database server or any infrastructure to support your development virtually. Also, it comes with pay-as-you-go model, which means you will be charged only for what you use and how much resource you are utilizing. So there are tons of cloud services available nowadays, but in this session, we are just going to learn the basics. This is really a good question. Why the cloud is called as the cloud? The answer to this question comes from network diagrams. In 1982, the network diagram was very simple, but by 1998, it became very complicated to understand for a human. So, after 1998, clouds were introduced in the network diagram. There are some people who also tells the cloud naming is because cloud is a virtual space, like the real cloud in the sky. The cloud services are classified based on the type of resource that we use. Infrastructure as a service means purely the infrastructure like a virtual machine or a database server. The user decides which operating system, which database, and what are all the softwares to install. Platform as a service means the required OS, the required softwares, databases, runtimes, say Java runtime or a .NET, will be installed by the cloud provider. Salesforce Cloud is a good example. In Salesforce Cloud, the users can develop a software on top of Salesforce but may not know the underlying infrastructure that Salesforce is using. In backend as a service or mobile backend as a service, the backend part is taken care by the cloud, and the user can focus on developing the user interface using client-side framework like JavaScript. Facilities like push notification, social login authentication are provided by default by the cloud provider in the backend. We can call the backend as a service in our client-side code with REST API. In function as a service, we just need to code the business logic. The cloud will take care of creating the server, executing the code. That's why it is called as serverless computing. There is definitely a server, but for the user, there is no server needed. We will be seeing what is serverless computing in detail further. In software as a service, the final software itself will be provided through the internet. like the Word Online, the Excel Online that we are using from the cloud. They are the good example of software as a service. Cloud is suitable for startup companies who wants to try a new idea without making a huge investment. Cloud can definitely reduce the financial risk there. Cloud is suitable for companies with no steady usage, like an e-commerce site who do more sales only during specific period of the year. Cloud is also suitable for freelancers with smaller clients who just need a website with just a few static HTML pages. Cloud is also best for students and developers to learn the latest services to improve their skills further and also to become a cloud certified developer or a cloud certified architect. Cloud is not suitable for companies who handles confidential information. Example, every military in every country, their softwares cannot be deployed in cloud. Also, protected patient information cannot be kept in a public cloud. This increases the security risk. Companies who has a steady usage for a longer period of time, cloud can be very expensive than purchasing the original hardware infrastructure itself. Let me give some introduction on the serverless computing, which is nothing but the function as a service. We can focus on the business logic and write the code without even thinking about creating a virtual machine or deploying our code in the virtual machine. Unlike cloud computing, it uses pay for value model. You can pay only for how much time you are consuming the service. Whereas in cloud computing, there is always going to be some charges when you keep your instance running all the time. Also, in serverless functions, you can use any programming languages which is popular, like JavaScript, Python, Go, Java, and many more languages that you can choose to use. And you can set up your code to automatically trigger from other cloud services. Like when you upload something in the bucket, the code can run. When you do some changes in the database, the cloud function can be triggered. Also, it can be directly called from any web or mobile application with the help of REST API. In Google Cloud, it is called Cloud Functions. In AWS, it is called as AWS Lambda, and in Azure, they are calling it as Azure Functions. So in this session, we are going to use Google Cloud Platform. The Google Cloud Platform was launched during April 2008, and Google Cloud ranks third in the cloud market share, while the AWS is in the first position and the Azure takes the second position. Google Cloud Platform is providing 3 months free tier benefits. They will be crediting you $300 in your cloud account, and the first 3 months, whatever the service that you use, the money will be deducted from this amount. And also they are saying all the customers will get free usage on some of the services like bucket, and some of the service like virtual machine they are providing for free. And also Google says that you won't be charged until you upgrade to the paid plan. Once you sign up for the Google Cloud, these are all the ways that you can access the Google Cloud services. The first way is using the Google Cloud console itself. So from the console, you can make any changes to the service, you can create a project, you can create a service, you can do anything there. And next way is using the G-Cloud CLI. You can download this SDK installer from this location, the link is provided in the description, and you can make use of the G-Cloud CLI to communicate with Google Cloud. Also, Google Cloud is providing you the Cloud SDK. You can install some packages from npm, which is for Node, and pip for Python, and you can programmatically control your services. Also, there is a mobile application that is available in Android, which is Cloud Console mobile application. Using the Cloud Console mobile application, you can stop a service, you can see what are all the services are running. Even when there is an error in your serverless function, the error gets reported by the application in your mobile. Now all the theory is over. Now we will see how to create an account in Google Cloud. So you need to go to cloud.google.com and you will be presented with the free tier benefits at the top, and you need to click on Get Started for free. Once you click on Get Started for free, you need to log in with your Google account. As a first step, it will ask your country, then you have to accept the terms and condition. Then in the third step, you will be providing your account type. You can choose an individual if you are an individual. and you will be providing your credit card details here. And for the tax information, you can keep it as registered individual if you are an Indian. Then you don't have to provide any PAN or TAN information. Once you click on the start my free trial here, your credit card will be having a deduction of 2 rupees. Then the 2 rupees will be credited back to you. This is just for verification, and there won't be any charge deducted from your credit card without your notice unless you upgrade to the paid plan. Once you have signed up for Google Cloud, you will be taken to this screen, which is nothing but Google Cloud Console, where you will be seeing on the top the list of projects. So by default, there will be a project that will be created for you. A project will provide some kind of isolation for your services, and it provides some kind of security. Say for example, if you are working in big organization, you would have noticed people will be provided access only when there is need to work in the project. So this is basically for that purpose. So you need to have a project before you can use any of the Google Cloud services. Now if you go to menu, you can find something called compute engine. So we are going to create a virtual machine from the compute engine. Now let's click on the VM instances. It will open this page where you can say create instance. Once you say create instance, here you will be presented with a form, and you can provide a name to your VM instance. So I'm going to call it as VM 1, so which will be easier for me to access from the command line later. So that's why I'm simply keeping it as VM1, and you will be also seeing the region. So this is the physical location where you want to keep your virtual machine data and everything. So also if you see in the right side, there is a um, there is a estimate of how month it will be charged for monthly for your virtual machine. So currently it says $25. Now let's change this region, which is closest to my place. So I am much closer to Mumbai than Delhi, so I am going to go with Asia South 1. So now the moment you selected, you notice there is a $5 increase in this estimate, which means the cost will be dependent on the place where you are choosing, the region you are choosing. If you want to choose US, you can go ahead and choose US, but the latency will be more, because the data needs to come from the US physical location, right? So the latency will be more in that case. So I'm just going to go with Asia South 1, and inside the region there will be multiple zone, so you can select any zone you want. So I'm going to just go with the first zone. Then once you go next, there will be machine configuration. So here is where I'm going to reduce this monthly estimate. So how I will reduce is, I don't want two virtual CPUs and 4 GB of memory. So there is a first generation processor N1. There they offering shared core, one virtual CPU and 614 MB memory. The moment I choose it, it reduced by $25. There is a reduction, so only $5.85 I will be paying for this virtual machine. Then once you go down, but it will be little bit slower when compared with the two virtual CPUs and 4 GB memory. But to be frank, for our demo Flask application, we don't need that much capacity. So you can choose your virtual machine appropriately, depends on your requirement. Then there is also something called boot disk, which is nothing but the operating system that will be installed in your virtual machine. So if you go with anything like a Windows Server, it will be expensive for you. So go with something which is free, with comes with a free license. You can go with any of the Linux based machines. So I am just going with the default Debian, and here the size of the disk, which is the size of the local disk, you can choose whether you want SSD or anything like that. So I'm just going with the default disk type, and I'm going to try to give less than 10, but it says that minimum 10 GB you need to provide. So let's go with 10 GB. And you can also give custom images, which the image that we created from some configuration, like say for example images with some software installed, snapshots, existing disk. You can go with these options as well. but in this demo we are just going with the free Debian licensed operating system. So let's select this. Now in this identity and API access, you can leave it as it is. Service account will be compute engine default service account and allow default access. Then we need to check these two check boxes, because we are going to deploy our Flask application in this virtual machine, and we need to allow HTTP traffic and HTTPS traffic to this virtual machine. um, so these things you don't have to worry. So once again, check your final bill for a month. So basically I won't be using this virtual machine after this tutorial, so I will be deleting it or stopping the virtual machine. If you delete this virtual machine, there won't be any charges for you, but if you stop the virtual machine, still you are using the 10 GB of persistent disk. For this there will be some charges, so it's better to delete if you are not using it. But if you choose to keep it, if you are fine with the charges that they are putting for you, you can go ahead with this. Then you can just say create. It will be creating a virtual machine for you in the background. So once it creates the virtual machine, it provides the internal IP and external IP. Using external IP, we can access the Flask application which we are going to deploy. We can access that, and our virtual machine is created. We can see the internal IP and external IP is available. Now here there is an option SSH, which is nothing but secure shell. If you click it, it will create a command line utility, and it will make a connection to this virtual machine. Using that you can execute using that you can access your virtual machine. So once I click it, it will be creating the private and public keys, SSH keys, and it will try store it in the Google Cloud virtual machine for you. Then once it is connected, okay, it is establishing the connection, and here you will be seeing it is nothing but command prompt, and here you will be seeing the virtual machine itself. So we are not going to use this tool. We are just going to use our system's command prompt. So just close this. The reason is I want to show you some commands that you are required to use. So to use the gcloud command over here, first you need to download the Google Cloud SDK, which I mentioned in the PPT before. So if you see my downloads folder, I have downloaded this Google Cloud SDK installer. So you need to download this installer first and install it, and once you install it, you can access the you can type gcloud and see if that is properly installed. Okay, so here I have not provided any argument, so that is why it is saying like this. So there are a lot of commands that is coming with gcloud, so just keep pressing enter. It will go to the end. Okay, this is the end. Now so first thing you need to do is you need to issue this command gcloud init. This will initialize your gcloud command in your computer. Once you click this, okay, there is a typo, gcloud init. Okay, welcome. This command will take you through the configuration of gcloud. Yes. So my region is Asia South 1 and B, because I have already set up this gcloud in my local. If you have not set up, it won't be like this. So I'm going to create a new configuration. Okay, so that I can demo how it will be looking for the first time. So I'm going to say 2 and enter configuration name. I'm just going to say it as just config. Config can. Okay, choose the account you would like to use to perform operation for this configuration. So whenever we are making issuing any command, so it will execute against this account. For example, on which account we are logged into the Google Cloud. In this case, since I already initialized, it is displaying my email ID. So I am just going with if you are a new gcloud user, You won't be presented with these options. um, so anyway, even if you click 1 or 2, it is going to take us to the login screen. um, okay, so how to invoke that login screen? Okay, now that I already have a project, I will select that project. Okay, do you want to configure a default current compute region and zone? Yes. So I will be selecting Asia South 1BA. Okay, anything you can choose in the Asia South. And okay, now that gcloud is configured, so if you are choosing that option 2, which is to log in with your this option, create sorry logging with a new account, this option. So how to, like, I'm just going to issue a command which will perform a login. Okay, so you need to perform this command, gcloud auth application default login. Okay, once you issue this command, it will open up a browser window, and it will ask you to sign into your Gmail account. So once you select your account, it will ask you to, Google Auth library wants to access your Google account. You should say allow. Once you allow it, you are authenticated with the Google Cloud SDK. This is exactly what you need to do for the first time. Now I have set my project as gcloud project Badusha. So if you want to set your project, we can do like gcloud um, set project. You can use this command. Okay, so actually I have documented the list of commands that we need to use. Let me show you that. So the first command is gcloud init, which we saw. Then if you want to create a new project, you can say gcloud projects create, and you have to provide a project name. In our demo, we have created from the Google Cloud console itself, so we don't need to create a project from here. But if you prefer CLI, you can create from here as well. And you can set the project before you can perform any operation. You need to set which project you are making as a default to perform the operation. So you have to issue this command with the respective project name. Okay, now I can set this project over here. Let me go back to the console. Gcloud config set project, set project, and my project name is gcloud project Badusha 1. Yeah, I'm just setting my project. Okay, maybe it's just config. Okay, now this project is set. Now I can issue the command. If I want to see what are all the list of instances that we have, say for example I want to see the list of compute instances. So I will compute instance, nothing but your virtual machine. I will say Google gcloud compute instances list. So it is going to list me the list of instances. This is the instance I just created and which is running. The status should be in the running state before you can access this instance. So how to access this instance? You need to say gcloud compute, because first, if you see, first everything is starts with gcloud, then next it starts with the service name. So compute is the service name, cloud compute. Next you need to say what you want to perform. Gcloud compute, I want to connect to this particular instance with the secure shell. So I'm going to say ssh, and I'm going to say the instance name. So instance name is vm1, which we created just now. This is the instance name vm1. So I'm going to connect, I want to connect it with ssh, secure shell. What is this? The server's host key does not match on putty key registry. Hitting cancel. Okay, if you want to abandon connection completely, hit cancel. Okay, what is, if you were expecting this change and press the new key, hit yes to update the putty's cache and continue connecting. So what happened here was, before this demo I have created another instance and connected with SSH. Now this is a new instance, so the private and public SSH keys that is stored in my local doesn't match with the new key that is generated. So this is the reason it is giving this warning. So click on yes and proceed. Now you are getting connected to your virtual machine from your computer's command prompt. Okay, now we can access it. Let's create a folder, mkdir projects. I'm going to call this folder as projects. My folder is created. I'm just going to cd into my projects folder, and I'm going to create a file. That file is a Python file. In the Python file I am going to create a small Flask application for deploying in this virtual machine. So before creating a Flask application, let's check if our new virtual machine has Python 3. So usually in Linux machines you have to, both Python 2 and 3 will be present. So if you want to use Python 3, you have to explicitly say Python 3. Now once I said Python 3, it is looks like the Python 3 is available. So do Control Z and stop it, and let's see if pip3 is there. So usually pip3 will not be installed in your virtual machine. So let's try to install the Flask Flask package. So pip3 is not available, so that's why it said command not found. So how to install pip3? So you have to say super user do apt-get install python 3 pip. Okay, if it was just python pip, it will install the pip for the python 2. If you say python 3 pip, it will install the python 3 pip. So you have to be little careful here. Then once you say pip3, it is going to install the pip. Okay, there was a typo, but still it's working. Okay, I'm good then. Okay, let's wait for the installation to complete. So what we will be doing, we will be creating a Flask application first in our local machine. Okay, so I have opened up a folder. I have just opened up a folder. Here I will create a new Python file. I'm going to call it as flaskapp.py, and in the flaskapp.py, so I have already installed Python on my local machine, and I have also installed the package Flask. So let me import from Flask package. From Flask import the Flask class. Then we need to create a variable app, and in that, we need to create an object of Flask class, and we need to pass some name. So here you can just pass the name of the main module, and so once we create the app object, we can create a function. So in this case this will be my home page, so home function. So I will be returning hello subscribers. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do it immediately now. Then we have to, we need to specify on the path, the app route, to decorate it with the route. So this will be my default initial home path, and the methods, the HTTP methods which I want to allow this methods is just get. So it will allow only HTTP get. Then we need to run this. So if we run this file, the module will be the name will be main module, underscore name is equal to underscore main. Okay, so now in this we need to run our application. Okay, let's try if this is working. Open up a terminal. Okay, say Python. So I have installed only Python 3 in my local, so Python will be just Python 3, and I'm going to say Flask app. So our app is now running in localhost. Port number is 5000. So okay, one change we need to do before we deploying to um, the virtual machine. We can specify the host here. So if you specify the host as 0000, it will allow us to access from outside, and you can give the port number as 5000 itself, which means after we deploy this Flask application in virtual machine, it will be easier for us, because if we hard code the IP address of the virtual machine, then every time we need to change the IP address if that is keep changing. So we can just leave it as 0000, so it will automatically take it. So let's try to run this again, make sure this is working. Why I'm unable to cancel it? Okay, let me stop allow access. Okay, this should be my local IP address, my machine's local machine's IP address. So it was taking it automatically. As I mentioned, in this case it was localhost 127.0.01. Here it is 192.168.1.7, which is my local IP address. So now that our app is working, let's copy this. Okay, now we need to go to our putty shell, and here, as you can see, the Flask, I think we try to install pip. um, so the pip 3 got installed successfully. Now we need to install um the Flask. Okay, let's say pip 3 install Flask, and the Flask is getting collected and the Flask is getting installed. So now we are in which folder? We are in projects folder. Let's create a file called flask app.py, and whatever I have copied from my Visual Studio Code in local, I will just paste it over here, and I'm going to say Control Z to stop and save this file. Let's view this file once again and ensure that the code is correct. Okay, so now I'm viewing this file, and my code is correct. Now I'm going to run this file with Python 3. So remember that this is a VM with Linux operating system installed by default, so we have to explicitly say Python 3. Now I need to call the flask app.py file. Okay, now it's running this on 10.160.0.4, which is nothing but my VM instance internal IP. Now how I can access this from outside, which is from my local system? I can access this Flask application which we just deployed in the virtual machine. How we can do this is just copy this external IP, and HTTPS is fine. Specify this port number. It won't work. The reason why it will not work is because of the firewall rules. So here, if you see, set up firewall rules, control traffic to and from your VM instance. So even though we say even though we have an external IP, we have to set up the firewall rules. So click on this. You will be going to this page um, where you will be seeing the list of firewall rules. So for HTTP server and HTTPS server, the firewall allows port number 80443. Okay, now I'm going to create another port number with 5000, and I'm going to say allow port number 5000 I'm just going to use HTTP. So you need to click on create firewall rule, and rule you can give anything. I'm just going to give Flask app rule, Flask app rule description, same thing, and logs of network default, priority leave it as it is, action on match allow, specific target. Okay, I'm just going to say all instance in the network, IP ranges. So you can give IP ranges as 0.0.0. So any computer can access this. So if you say 0.0.0.0, which means you are making it public, you are not limiting this our application. You are not limiting our application to on a particular IP range. You are making it as public for everyone. So you need to say 0.0.0, say allow all. And let's create this firewall rule. So the rule got created, and Flask app rule you can see in the, let me zoom out a little bit. Flask app rule, okay, now let's try to access this thing using the HTTP. Okay, now our app is running from virtual machine, and we are getting the response from the server. This is how we need to create a VM instance, and we can deploy something, and we can access it from outside world. Okay, now that we are able to access our virtual machine, we will be disconnecting from it, and let's proceed creating a SQL Server instance. So again, go back to Google Cloud instance, SQL, yeah, here I have pinned this here, guys, so that is why it is appearing at the top. But if you search it, it should be available in the under the databases. So as I don't have any instance, it is asking me to create an instance. And one important thing is, whenever you are accessing for the first time, it will ask you to enable some APIs, so you can enable it. So since I have already enabled it, it was not asking for me. But if you are using for first time, there will be definitely the Google Cloud will be asking you to enable some APIs for the first time. So here we are provided with three options. We can go with MySQL database, PostgreSQL, SQL Server. I think the SQL Server will be expensive one. You can choose MySQL Server. I'm just clicking on MySQL Server. I don't know what is this. That is appearing on my screen. Now it disappeared. Okay, we need to have a instance ID similar to how we created a virtual machine. We will be naming it as MySQL1, and password, you can generate a password, but I am not going to generate anything. I am just giving some password. Okay, so you can select the SQL version also. So let's leave it as 5.7 itself. So choose the region and availability. Again, you need to choose Asia South. If you are in India, you can choose Asia South. If you are near to Mumbai, you can choose South 1. If you are near to Delhi, you can use South 2. In case of outage, no failover, not recommended for production. Okay, here multiple zones. Okay, so when there is any failure, due to any natural disaster or something, there will be backup. They will be taking within this region. There will be multiple zone. So we don't have that much secure data. We are just trying to learn. So let's click it as let's choose the single zone option and specify zone. You can specify the zone Asia South 1A. So this is where our virtual machine is also running. So if you have noticed one thing, here also we need to specify the list of CPUs because it is again a virtual machine. um, it is again a virtual machine, and in the virtual machine they are going to install the database software, that is MySQL DB software. um, so usually when we go with virtual machine, right? Before, the companies used to get a virtual machine and they install their database inside the virtual machine. So now these cloud providers like Google Cloud Platform, AWS understood, so they definitely need a database to be installed. So why not we create a new virtual machine for a database alone, so that they can charge for this CPU again, right? We cannot use our database in the same virtual machine which we created earlier. So I'm going to select something shared core. Shared core will be, I don't know how this works, but sh- by the name it will be shared with other users as well. So let's give shared core, and one CPU, one virtual CPU with 0.614 GB of RAM is enough for me to run my database. So let's give that. Storage, SS solid state drive. SSD, we don't want SSD, we are just fine with the hard drive, hard disk drive. So lower performance, but you can have lower storage rates with HDD, and you can say 10 GB of storage is enough. Enable automatic storage increases, just disable this thing and proceed. Advanced encryption options, we don't want any encryption. Connection, public IP, private IP. So here if you create it as a private IP, you cannot access it from anywhere outside, but we want to access this MySQL server outside of from our computer, so we just need to enable it as public IP. Again, when you are saying public IP, there will be some charges that will be coming, because this IP address they need to reserve for you. So there will be some charges, and it is little bit expensive according to me. And add a network. So here again the same thing like how we created the firewall rule. So here I'm going to expose this to the world. So I'm just saying the world. Okay, so I'm just going to expose this to the world. So I'm giving 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, so here they're saying you have added 000 as an allowed network. This prefix will allow any IPv4 client to pass the network firewall and make login attempts to your instance, including clients you did not intend to allow. Clients still need valid credential to successfully log into your instance. So what they're saying is, if you expose this, anybody can try to connect to your database, but whoever who knows the password only can able to connect. I will be deleting this instance after this tutorial, guys. So click on done. This will be exposed to the world. Backups, we don't need any backups, just disable everything. Maintenance, any window, flags, labels. Okay, I don't know what is it. Okay, let's go ahead and create this instance now. Now it is creating the MySQL instance. So let it create in the background. So if you don't have MySQL command line client and MySQL installer community, sorry, MySQL community edition, you can install that. Okay, let us try to create a connection from MySQL workbench to the instance that we created in Google Cloud Platform. So what you need to do is you need to just copy this public IP address, and these are my existing connections. So I'm going to add a new connection. I'm going to call it as MySQL-1. Let's say MySQL 1, and I'm going to just replace this with the host name, and port is 3306 by default, and the user is the user that I created just now. Test connection. Provide the password that you have given while creating the user. So successfully made a connection with MySQL instance. Next thing you need to do is just go to this. Now if you see the databases list, this should be only the system databases. Now we are going to create a database. So let's say create database Flask demo. Let's execute this and refresh this page. So once you refresh the page, you should see your database Flask demo that is created now. So let's try to create a table inside the Flask demo. Create table. So what I'm planning to do, I'm planning to take an input from the Flask application and I'm planning to insert the data into this table. So let's say we are going to create a contact list. So when we add a new contact, the data should be saved in this data table. So let's keep it as contacts with the name of the contact with varchar of 200 and the contact number, which is can say phone number, which can be of varchar of 10 should be sufficient, or maybe if we need to add an extension, let's keep it as 15 then. Okay, so I'm going to create this table now. No database selected, so use Flask demo as the database. Now create the table. Okay, you should see your table. Maybe we cannot see our table. Okay, there is only option to delete here. Okay, that's fine. Now let's go back to our local Flask application, stop it, and we will make some updates to this Flask app now. So first let us create a HTML file. So the HTML file for the Flask should be placed in the templates directory. So I'm creating a templates folder. Inside that folder I'm going to say contact form.html. So in the contact form.html, first thing is doc type. Okay, doc type HTML, head, title, give us contacts, then can have the body, and we can have a form. The method of the form should be post, and inside the form we can have inputs for entering the type text, and the name of this name will be required to access the value from Flask application. So just give us just name, give a break, and create another input for phone number, type equal to text, name will be phone number. Now give a break and create a type submit, and you can say value equal to save. Can okay, so this is the basic HTML, and before trying to render it from Flask application, let us try to first run it on the browser and see if we have the form. Yeah, I think adding a label will be more appropriate, and we can add some CSS too. And let's add a name directly here. Name, phone, you can just say phone, and can give some style to this. Style background color is yellow, and height should be 200 pixels, and the width should be 200 pixels. Okay, now just go back, try to see how this looks now. Okay, this looks fine to me. Let's add one more break to the save submit button. Okay, now let's try to render this in our Flask app. Go back to Flask app. So you need to import a method called render template. So also we are going to process something from the because we are submitting something from the form, we need request object here, so importing that as well. So render template and request. Now I am going to, instead of saying hello subscribers, I am going to render this template and return the HTML itself. So the name of the file is contact form.html. Okay, so now let's try to just run this and see if the form gets rendered here. Okay, now it's running. Go and see. Our local host is running this name and phone number. Now we need to make this home method accept post request as well. Post request as well. So you need to add post here. Then what we need to do, if the request method is post, we need to get the data and create a query, and we need to insert that in the database. So now let's see how we can get the form element. So we need to check if the request is post. Request.method equal to post. Then we can extract the name like request.form, and it will be coming like a dictionary. Form will be coming like a dictionary. So you can say name is nothing but the name that we specified here, and next is phone number. Yeah, yes, it is phone number. Yeah. Okay, next we will see if we are able to print this value. Okay, I'm just going to pass some values and see if the values are getting printed. Let's maximize this. Okay, I'm going to say test 1 2 3. Okay, now this is printing. Okay, now we can proceed to implement the database connectivity. Then we can insert this name and phone number in the database that we created, um, and the table name is contacts and the database name is Flask demo. Okay, so to install to connect with database, I'm going to use SQL Alchemy. So let's install SQL Alchemy. Pip install SQL Alchemy. You can choose anything, but before you choose anything, you make sure that it is working in the Linux environment, because earlier I had a problem with Flask MySQL DB package. So when I installed it in Windows, it worked fine, but in Linux it was not working fine, so there were some errors. So you can go with SQL Alchemy, and once we have SQL Alchemy, we need to install PyMySQL driver. So this will be our database driver, and SQL Alchemy will be the package that will help us to call this driver and execute our query. So let's install the PyMySQL. It's installed successfully. So now I'm going to import from SQL Alchemy. From SQL Alchemy import, we basically need a create engine. Using this we will be connecting, and we need to create a database URL. Database URL, how we can create this? So there is a format for that. So let me create a variable URL. Let's say db URL, db underscore URL. So when we are working with SQL Alchemy, first we need to start with the dialect. Dialect meaning SQL Alchemy supports some databases, so we need to start like MySQL. We need to plus the DB driver name. In our case, the DB driver that we are going to use is PyMySQL. We just install that PyMySQL. Once we have that, here we need to have the username. So username is Badhu, which we created in the cloud. We created the database user, right? And we need to give the password. This is the password that I provided, and we need to provide the @host here. To get the host, I will be going back. So okay, here is the public IP address. Copy this. This is our host, and we need to provide the database port number. Port number will be 3306 by default for MySQL server. Let's ensure that we can go here. Yes, it is 3306. This is the port, and finally we need to give slash the database name. It is case sensitive, so what database name we created? Flask demo. F caps and D caps. Same way we need to provide here. Okay, now our URL is ready. Now let's see how we can get connected to SQL Alchemy. So now we need to create a database engine. So how we can create a database engine? Can say simply a variable db underscore engine. We need to call this create engine function. Inside that we need to pass the URL, db URL that we created just now. So there will be a engine, database engine created, and from this engine we can get our connection. So db underscore engine dot connect as, simply I will say con. So the advantage of using in with block, you don't have to worry about closing the connection. It will be automatically closed once the with block is completed. So now once we have the connection, we need to execute our query. Okay, to execute I need to pass the query directly, the insert query, in the insert script. For that we need one more function, text. This will convert the string in a executable form. It will make a construct on top of our string. So if you provide this text only, then the query will get executed properly. So sorry, I'm giving it the wrong place. Okay, insert into contacts values Okay, these are all the column names that we created. So we need to enclose this with text. I mean, we need to pass the query first inside the text function. Then in the execute we have option to provide parameters like this. We can provide any number of rows we want. We need to provide a like a dictionary syntax within the list. So dictionary syntax within the list, we need to provide the values. So I will be providing the name, the name is this one, and phone number. Which is phone. Okay, now that we have created the connection and connection execute. Okay, now let's try to execute this and see if the changes are reflecting in the database. So let me run this from here so that we can debug as well if there is any issue. The app name is Flask app. Okay, 2, 3. Okay, so there was no status messages we have given, so it's just refreshing the page. So let's query this table and see if the value got inserted or not. Select star from contacts. Okay, so the value got inserted and there was no issues over here. So now let's give some meaningful status. So status, what we can do, we can make use of Jinja to templating. So here I will be having a placeholder. Here I should say I will pass the results. From the results there should be a status. In the result dictionary there should be a key called status, and this will be printed here. So how we can pass it from the code? So here I will create a variable status. I will set it as empty. So in the get request there won't be anything displayed. Only in the post request after the save, what we will do, we will set the status equal to record saved. Okay, then we need to return this. In the render template we have to provide the result. So we need to provide it like a dictionary. We'll be giving as status and the variable name is status. Okay, so now this will be accessible from the contact form while Jinja 2 template is rendering this HTML page. Okay, now let me restart and run again. Okay, it's saying record saved now. Let's check the DB once again. Yes, the record got inserted. The same code we will now deploy it in the virtual machine that we created in the cloud. So for that I will just copy the whole code. Then I will be going to my virtual machine and we need to replace in the flask app.py. So using the cat command I am just going to rewrite the file. Okay, I'm just going to paste this completely. Control C. Then we need to replace this form as well because we made some changes in the Jinja 2 templating that we need to update in the virtual machine. So we need to cd into templates folder and we will be replacing the contact form.html. Okay, let me run this. Okay, before that we forgot one more thing. We need to install SQL Alchemy and PyMySQL driver in the virtual machine. So we have installed only in our local. We need to install here as well. So for that pip3 install PyMySQL. Okay, it is installed. Next is SQL Alchemy. So that is as well installed. So let's try to run our Python program. Python 3 flask app.py. Sorry, it's a typo. Okay, now the development server is running and let's see if we are able to access that. What is the external IP? We need to see that. Okay, this is the external IP now. We will be copying that and HTTP external IP port should be 5000. Okay, so now our so if you see the shell, there was a get request. So let's give some name, test2 543 save. It is saying record saved, but we need to see the database to confirm once. Yes, test2 543 is saved. So now if you see, we have created our Flask application and we deployed that in the virtual machine in the Google Cloud, and we also created a Cloud SQL MySQL server in the Google Cloud, and we were able to connect it via the local machine as well, and the virtual machine that we created as well. So now we have deployed our Flask application along with the database in the Google Cloud. So the next we will be seeing how to deploy this in the serverless, which is nothing but cloud functions. Okay, so let me go back to Google Cloud Platform. So if you open the menu, the serverless should be within the the cloud function should be within the serverless option. Click on cloud functions. Now I have already created a function for my learning purpose. Now let's create a new function. Let's call it as get contacts. So get contacts will be my function name. It should be deployed in my south region, Asia South 1, Mumbai. A trigger type should be HTTP is enough. HTTP. So there are multiple trigger type. If you see, as I mentioned earlier in the theory session, you can trigger a serverless function with others. There are a lot of services that can trigger cloud functions. Say for example, cloud storage, that is nothing but bucket. In Amazon it's called as S3 bucket. In Google Cloud it is called cloud storage. When some object is uploaded in the cloud storage, we can perform some operation. For example, when you upload a image, say for example image is around 4 MB or 5 MB or even more than that, the resolution is more, you can trigger a function and you can reduce the resolution of the image and store it in another bucket. So that will be useful to so if you upload a product image which is of, so say for example, take an example in Amazon, like seller uploads the product images. Okay, let's think that they uploaded an image which is of like taken in a very good camera with very good resolution. The size of the image will be obviously more. So if they want to reduce it, they will do such things. Once the image is uploaded, they will take that image and they will reduce the resolution and put it into the necessary bucket. So in that kind of use cases, this will be very useful. And also there are a lot of things, even in the Firebase real-time database. If somebody is making an update, say for example if they are deleting something which they are not supposed to delete, and if you want to monitor, you can have a function, and whenever the delete happens you can get notification. So you can also do such things, but here we are just going to access this cloud functions from our browser, which is using HTTP protocol, and this will be the URL that will be displayed here will be the like you can say a REST API URL. So it is same thing. And so authentication, you need to say allow unauthenticated invocations, meaning you can access this URL from anywhere, any device. That is public API. Okay, you don't have to provide any credentials to authorize this request. So just click on allow unauthenticated invocations. And require HTTPS, no, we don't need HTTPS. Then save it. And here if you see, there is memory allocated, how much memory it needs to be allocated. So store give something which is very less. We are not doing anything complicated, we are just doing simple things. So let's give 5 seconds timeout. It shouldn't take more than 5 seconds to get the results from the database. And runtime service account, you can give us compute engine default service account. This is the service account which was used by this this virtual machine, which is nothing but compute engine. So give that. If you are using app engine default service account, then you need to grant access to the cloud SQL, etc. So just give compute engine default service account, as we already have the virtual machine. And auto scaling, just give it as 1. So auto scaling here means, in the microservices, right, in the microservices concept, they will be deploying individual services. That time, if more users are logging in, if the more users are coming, the traffic is increasing, there is auto scaling, like it will multiply into multiple instances. Same thing will be deployed in a different containers. So now we don't have such things, so we will just give only one instance. Okay, so we are not going to do such things. So click next. So this is index.js. So here, as I mentioned earlier in the theory session, you can choose any programming languages which is popular. So as you can see here, .NET Core is available, Go, I don't know, Go, Java, I know .NET Core, Node.js also, only little I know, PHP also I don't know, Ruby also I don't know, but I am good in Python. So let's choose Python. And the entry point, we can say again, it's just a function name, get contacts. Okay, so let's change it here as well, entry point, the request. If you have noticed one thing, here Flask is written in the comment docstring, which means cloud functions, Google Cloud Function is internally using Flask micro framework. So this function is nothing but what we created here. It's exactly same. What Google Cloud will do is, they will only ask us to write this portion, they will take care of all the other portion, like installing everything, pip install and everything. They will take care of the deployment, like running in which port, which host, everything they will take care. So that's why serverless function, they are saying you only worry about business logic, what you need to do. Don't worry about how the request is coming and where the result should be displayed. Don't worry about that. So that is the core principle of serverless computing. Now let's try to do the same thing over here. Let me copy paste this code. Okay, so in the else part, it is returning hello world. We don't want to return hello world, so here we will be doing, so you need to take care of the indentations, whether they are correct or not. Okay, now we need to bring the URL thing here. DB URL, actually we can keep here itself. Okay, so here we are not going to insert into the database, but we are going to select from the database. Okay, we are going to select from the database. So remove this parameters that is passed, and let's modify the query as select star from contacts. Okay, select star from contacts is our table name. Okay, this will be executed, and we need a variable to hold the results, and its result equal to, then the result will be available in this. And we need to say, so this will return in a list. So if we want to make it as a to return, like we need to convert it to dictionary so that we can return it as a JSON. Okay, and result we need to say all. We don't need this. Maybe we can keep return in the out of the with. Okay, there are some indentation mistakes I did just now. I corrected that. Then we can keep result created here as a empty dictionary. Anything is fine here. Anyway, it's going to be replaced here as a list of items, list of tuples actually. Then here it will be converted to dictionary, and it will be returned to the browser. Now that's fine. Now we need to import the SQL Alchemy here from, let's copy that as well. From SQL Alchemy, import create engine text. Okay, these two things we will be importing here. We have imported it, but here, okay, so how in our local machine and in the virtual machine we did install the PyMySQL and the SQL Alchemy package, right? But in the cloud functions, how it will execute is this is the standard way for Python packages to install. So we usually have requirements.txt file. Here we need to mention the package name. So what so in real-time projects we will be only having requirements.txt. We won't be checking in any or pushing the packages to git. So we once we have the requirements.txt, we can do pip install, read from this file and install -r requirements.txt. So that will be installed for every whenever we want, we can install based on the requirements.txt. And so here also looks like they will first install the requirements.txt, then proceed with our code execution. So that is what going to happen. PyMySQL and SQL Alchemy we provided in the list of packages that needs to be installed. Now I think it should work fine. Okay, now let's deploy our serverless function. Now our serverless function is getting deployed. If there was any error, it would have it will appear here itself. If there is any coding error or syntax error, it will appear here as well, so we can go and fix it. But if there is any error at the execution time, at the runtime, it will not be visible here. We need to test the function first. So they are providing option to test the function. We can use that, and also we can directly invoke the URL because we kept it as allow unauthenticated, right? It can be accessed from anywhere. Meanwhile, how many data we have? We have 3 entries as of now. So let's disconnect from putty as well. You can just close it. And it's good practice to stop the instances that you are not using. So now we are not going to use our virtual machine. So let's stop it from here as well, and we can stop it from command prompt as well. We need to say compute instances stop. VM1 is our instance name. We can stop like this as well. So as I mentioned earlier, if you are just stopping it, there won't be any usage from your virtual machine, but still there will be a persistent disk that you have created. Depends on whether it is SSD or HDD. You will be again, the charges will be keep coming. So since this is 3 months free tier, you don't have to worry about all the things. So now the instance is stopped. Now let's go back to our function. Yeah, function is also created by the meantime. So now what you need to do is you need to click on test function first and click test the function. Okay, error. We need to inspect the logs for what is the to understand the error. Okay, so here the orange is highlighted, right? Here DB engine is not defined. DB engine is not defined. Name error. Okay, so let's go back to our source, edit this function and go back to source and click on next. DB engine is not defined. Okay, I haven't copy pasted that code, creating the DB engine. So this was missing there. Let's add it over there. Okay, now DB engine is there, DB URL is there, DB engine connect, then it should execute. Then the result will be, all the results will be converted to dictionary and returned to the browser. Okay, let's deploy once again. So the moment you say you are going to deploy for the second time, if you have seen this function, the function which I created earlier, let me open it and show you. So it maintains the versions one by one. So how many updates we make, it will keep counting the version number. So as of now I have updated this function 6 times, and from where this knows, this Google Cloud keeps the track of the versions. It's not like connecting, uploading it to a GitHub, and it's not like a source control. So whenever you create a cloud function, you will notice that 2 buckets will be automatically created. These 2 buckets will be automatically created. Let's open one. Okay, see, it maintains the list of serverless functions that we create. So before I had function 1, then I tried to create something like serverless function and deleted it. Then but I did not delete the data from the bucket. And get contacts we just now created, that is also available here. So it maintains the version based on the bucket data that is available. Let's open this function 1. So see, version 5, version 6 is there. I don't know where the, maybe only 2 versions will be there. Let's see, get contacts, version 1 and 2. Version 2 we just now deploying that. I don't know if it is completed or not. Let's see this bucket. So okay, let's go back to our cloud functions and see. Yeah, it is deployed successfully. Now again test the function. Yes, it is successful. You can see output is completed, and we are getting our whatever in the database we are getting over here. Okay, so let's try to copy this URL. Okay, now here it returns JSON. So using this JSON, like usually in any project like client-side framework like React.js, we will fetch this data and we will render it in some grid or something, right? So it is exactly like same REST API. So if you want to deploy with serverless function, you can try like this. Okay, now let's add one more data and see. Okay, now I'm going to add test 4. Okay, now let's just refresh this URL. Okay, test 4 is now available. Okay, thanks for watching. That's all from this session. So if you want to receive and see videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.